The Church of Saint Fructuoso, Baros. Welcome to Baros, which is at an altitude of 933 meters. Looking to the right from the church door, you'll see the distinctive profile of Monte Oruel, while looking north you can see the high mountains of the Pyrenees. Baros has 100 inhabitants, which is a big increase on the 39 inhabitants it had 20 years ago. There is little documentary evidence for the village, and of the information we do have, some of it is considered to be false. The earliest document citing Baros dates to 1062 and mentions a monk from the village. King Sancho Ramirez of Aragon donated lands and property to Jaca Cathedral in 1084, and Baros was one of the gifts. We know the names of some of Baros's inhabitants in the 12th and 13th centuries, and that the village became the property of the Dean of Jaca Cathedral. In the 19th century, Baros was part of a municipality which included the villages of Ulle, Ipas and Guasa, and the village has been part of the municipality of Jaca since 1966. The church is dedicated to Saint Fructuosus and was built towards the end of the 11th century in a style combining elements of early Lombard and later Jaca Romanesque architecture. It was altered considerably in later centuries. The church has a small walled cemetery attached to it. Saint Fructuoso has a single nave aligned east-west, with the east end facing away from the village square and fenced off inside a field. Although you can't walk around to the apse, you can get a reasonable view by looking around to the left or from the right a little further away. Let's go to the north side of the church, which is the side nearest the village washhouse. The original Romanesque building was the nave, chancel and apse. The wall we're looking at is later and is part of the Chapel of the Virgin of the Rosary, built around 1600. The second section of the original nave wall was demolished in order to build the chapel. You can look into the field here to see part of the east end and see the typical blind arches and pilasters used in Lombard Romanesque architecture. The upper part of the decoration with angled stones is like a saw blade and is called a corner frieze. The apse has a horseshoe floor plan with a semicircular exterior wall. To continue your visit, please go to the west end of the church, the wall which faces the square. The main doorway with a lintel was added in the 18th century at the same time as the bell tower. Please keep walking around the cemetery wall to get a wider view of the building. There have been two sacristies along the south wall. The first was built in the 17th century, and then in 1861 more alterations were made at the behest of the Bishop of Jaca. These included demolishing the first sacristy and building a new one and making other changes on the north facade. These additions were removed during major restoration work in the 1980s and 90s, which aimed to bring the church back to its original form. Looking at the south facade, just past the tower, we can see the original door into the church. Towards the east end, the wall is decorated with blind arcading and a corner frieze above. As the wall nears the apse, there are some sculptures of a horse's head and human figures beneath the arcading. These probably came from another, unknown building and are quite untypical in Lombard-style churches, which rarely use sculptural decoration. The bell tower is articulated with a horizontal moulding dividing the volume into two sections. The bells can be seen in the round arched windows. If the church is open, please have a look inside. Interior. The nave is barrel vaulted and the chancel is covered by two barrel arches. The cross-shaped window above the chancel is a special detail here. The apse is the usual half-dome shape with a central window. A very interesting feature to look at in the apse are the four ceramic pots embedded in the vault. These are called acoustic pots and were designed to amplify and increase the resonance of the priests and monks chanting and singing in the church. Whether they work or not is debatable, but they are an unusual and thought-provoking indication of the importance of sound in medieval religious ceremonies. The vaulted chapel of the Virgin of the Rosary has a font with some incised decorations, including 3 fishes, a geometrical motif and a difficult to see bird-like figure. The relief sculptures here are of unknown origin. Please enjoy the many details in this special church for a while, and when you leave, we suggest you turn left out of the door, and a 2-minute walk along the path towards Peñaruel will bring you to the Hermitage Chapel of Santiago, which is a rural Romanesque building dating from the 12th century. It is also worth walking around the village to see the traditional houses here and enjoy some amazing views of the Pyrenees and Oruel.